Hey guys, what is going? Hold up. Hang on a tick. That's better. So, as we all know, the end of 2019 is upon us. It is right around the corner, and because of that, people have started to put up their best and worst of 2019 list. And just to let you guys know, the guys and I will be filming our best and worst videos on the 27th, and the videos will be up between the 29th and the 31st, so keep an eye out for those. But as you all know, I am the biggest horror buff of the crew, and if you ask me personally, 2019 has been a pretty kick-ass year for horror films. And since it is Friday the 13th, I thought I would share with you guys my top 10 favorite horror films of 2019. Now, before I go on, I do want to share a couple of disclaimers with you guys. First of them being that this is my subjective list. I understand that the films on my list, some of them you guys aren't gonna like. Like, I know particularly, there's one particular film that I know a couple buddies of mine, when they do see it, they're gonna say, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Second of which, these aren't really reviews, but rather short explanations as to why I put these films on this list, and also the numbers I rank them at for myself personally. And finally, let's just have a fun time talking about the horror films that we love this year, and also talking about the horror films that scared us shitless. But before I do go on to my top 10, I do have two honorable mentions, them being Child's Play and It Chapter 2. I like those movies a lot. I had a great time with both of them, and they have some very creepy stuff with them. But I feel like they weren't quite good enough to make my top 10. Now, with that being said, let's get on my top 10 favorite horror films of the year. Let's get it on! Starting off my list at number 10 is Brightburn. Brightburn was a very interesting concept of taking Superman and not making him a hero, but making him a villain instead. And I honestly had a great time with this concept. Now, sure, I will say this. Brightburn doesn't take a whole lot of time in explaining as to why this Superman becomes evil. It doesn't really take a lot of character development. But what does this movie offer instead? A bloody good slasher movie flick that essentially involves an evil Superman. The acting was very good, especially from Jackson A. Dunn, to which I want to see more from this guy. This movie was a lot of fun to watch, and what I appreciate about this movie even more so is that this movie had balls in some areas that I was not expecting. Brightburn was a bloody good time at the movies, and if they made more supervillain origin stories like this, I'd be down to see them. Coming in my number 9 spot is the adaptation of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. When I first heard the synopsis for this film, I was terrified because I thought they were going to turn one of my favorite books as a kid essentially into a generic teenage horror film, into which that wasn't the case for the most part. Though I will not lie, at times it does seem to go into that generic territory. What it does do, and says it has a very fun storyline that goes into some dark territory, has some great scares. Though what I praise about this movie the most is that they do such a phenomenal job of bringing these stories to life, especially the Big Toe storyline and the Dream storyline. I mean, that part I rewatched a couple of days ago. It freaked the hell out of me. And one of my other biggest praises about this movie is that, like the books, this movie will be a great gateway for older children and preteens into the world of the horror genre, to which, you know what, hell yeah to that. At my number 8 is one of my biggest surprises of the year, and that is Annabel Comes Home. Annabel Comes Home, when I first saw the trailer, it looked like a generic, stupid haunted house film, when that movie was not like that at all. Now, I said this in my review, and I'm gonna say this once again. If you guys can get past these stupid character decisions made within the first 20 minutes, there is a lot of fun and a lot of creative horror to be had in this movie. The performances are amazing from McKenna Grace, Madison Iseman, and Casey Refe. By the way, I met Casey Refe in real life. She is one of the coolest human beings I have ever met. Like I mentioned before, the scares were a lot of fun. Some of them were really creative in how they foreshadowed certain things to come. And one thing I really dug is how they included one specific case, and I just thought, oh, this is great. I will say, I did find that Annabelle Creation was a better film than Annabelle Comes Home, but really, Annabelle Comes Home was a very fun haunted house film in its own right. Coming in at my number 7 spot is The Hole in the Ground. The Hole in the Ground takes the concept of my child isn't right in the horror genre, spins on its head, and what we get as a result of that concept this time around is something that is so damn cool. The performances from this movie are great, especially from that kid. I mean, oh my god, that kid was creepy. This is a movie that if people tell me that the concept of if my child isn't right type of horror film is dying, I will point them in this direction, because I have shown my friends this movie and they said, whoa. Not to mention, this movie has some great scares, some great gore effects, and by the third act, there's this one that happened that had me going like, oh god, get out of there! I really dug The Hole in the Ground a lot, and I really wish more people saw this movie. At my number 6 spot is probably my biggest surprise of 2019, and that is Crawl. This was a movie that, like Annabel Comes Home, when I saw the trailer for Crawl, I just thought, this movie looks fucking stupid as all hell. But walking out was I awestruck because Crawl had some of the most fun I had all year at the movies. This is the type of B horror film that knows it's a B horror film because of it. It just goes along with it and it just has such a fun time with it. Not only are the performances of this movie great, but this movie is tension filled to the brim. From the moment this movie starts to the moment that it ends, you are constantly on the edge of your seat, biting your nails, just hoping to God that this girl is swimming away from these alligators, not getting bit at any time. And pretty much any time this girl is bit, you're just thinking, oh fuck, get out of there! Not only does this movie know what it is, but it does not overstay its welcome in the slightest. And man, I enjoyed the shit out of Crawl. Okay, so at my number 5 spot, I feel like that this particular movie is really going to divide a lot of people because I feel like it's going to take people in either two ways. One, they're going to either say, I love this pick, or two, they're going to say, what in the shitting hell is this movie doing on your list? And yes, while I cannot deny that this movie has been very polarizing, I have to say that Midsummer was a very unique experience at the movies this year for me. As you all know, I absolutely loved Ari Aster's previous film, Hereditary. That film is in my top 10, actually top 5 favorite horror films of the decade. So when I heard that he was making this movie, I got immediately excited. And man, what a fucking movie this was. If you guys did see my review for Midsummer, you guys would know that I had a couple of issues with this movie, mainly being pacing and that there were a couple of parts that are predictable. But other than that, Midsummer was a movie that after I walked out with my buddy Sarah, we were talking about going like, yeah, that was something right there. The performances in this movie, especially from Florence Pugh, I mean, oh my god, Florence Pugh was just phenomenal in this movie. This is seriously Florence Pugh's year. Also, this film is one of the most gorgeously shot horror films there, and not to mention the amazing soundtrack. But really what I love about this movie is that when it shows you these things of patient tranquility, and it unexpectedly sweeps the rug underneath you, and you're like this. This is so cool. What the fuck? And while I do prefer Hereditary over Midsummer, I cannot deny that Midsummer was a hell of an experience, and at times an experience that creeped the fuck out of me. Aye, matey, at my number 4 is The Lighthouse. I am so sorry, guys. I will not do that ever again through the remainder of this. If you were to ask me what the best things about The Lighthouse were, it's the performances by Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. But what only complements the performances are the gorgeous cinematography, the location, the awesome storyline, and the beautiful score of this movie. The Lighthouse feels like more of a stage play than anything, and it makes sense because Robert Eggers was actually a theater director at one point. The Lighthouse is a movie that after the first 20 minutes, you're in for one hell of a ride because, oh my god, the ride that this movie takes you in, you are in for some shit, to say the least. What I like about The Lighthouse even more so is that this movie uses Greek mythology as a backbone to help tell the story, and as a lover of Greek mythology, oh, you guys know I'm all in for that. And when it comes to the horror of this film, there are still some images that have not got out of my head, like one particularly. Robert Eggers is on a roll, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. At my number 3 spot, guys, let's play a game of hide and seek because ready or not, here I come. Ready or Not is a film that if you told the concept to someone on paper, they'll probably brush it off as dumb and they'll probably think it's one of the worst films of the year. But I'm telling you all, Ready or Not is anything but that. This movie is batshit insane in all the best ways possible. The best way I can describe Ready or Not is that it is a more amplified version of You're Next, and You're Next was a badass movie in its own right. Really though, Ready or Not was just such a fun type of the movies that I was smiling throughout, I was laughing throughout, and most importantly, yes, there were times where I was scared shitless. And on top of that, when you have such fun banter between the family members and also a badass performance from Samara Weaving, it only makes that even better. Not gonna lie to you guys, I've seen Ready or Not 3 times now, and the more I saw it, the more fun I had with it. And of course, that ending, holy shit. Because the first time I saw that in theaters, when everything started unraveling, I just thought, okay, you know what? If it goes this direction, that's completely okay. But the fact that it actually stuck the landing and it went there, made it that much better. Guys, I know the concept of this movie sounds stupid as hell, but trust me, watch this movie and experience the badassery that this movie is. At my number 2 spot, guys, this movie was my number 1 for months until I saw my most anticipated horror film of the year. But at my number 2 spot is Us. I just want to say right now, Jordan Peele, man, you are seriously one of the best filmmakers on the planet, and I hope you continue making great horror films like this one. Now, I know that a lot of people prefer Get Out more than Us, but honestly, I prefer Us more than Get Out. Us was a movie that from the first frame in to the final moment of this film, dude, I was on the edge of my seat. From Jordan Peele's directing, the screenplay, to the phenomenal performances, especially from Lupita Nyong'o, who, by the way, she deserves an Oscar nomination. Just saying, I have not forgotten about that. The cinematography for this movie is amazing, and not to mention the bone-chilling score, especially in that final act. I mean, holy shit. One particular thing that I loved about Us is that in the beginning, if you're not paying attention to the little breadcrumbs that Jordan Peele is displaying for you, you could easily miss them, because I remember that when I first saw the first 15 minutes and when I saw the end result, I just thought, wait. Whoa! Us was basically a feature-length version of a Twilight Zone episode, and it makes sense because not only was Jordan Peele influenced by that show while making this movie, but he also narrated and he hosted the new Twilight Zone series, which is actually pretty good. I mean, seriously, when it comes to doppelgangers rising up and taking over the earth, that sounds pretty fucking terrifying. And like I mentioned in my review, there was one particular Beach Boys song that I will not look at in the same way ever again. Alrighty, guys. We are here. We have come to my number 1 favorite horror film of 2019. The horror film that not only I love the most, but the horror film that scared me the most. Now, you guys could have probably guessed it since I didn't mention it earlier, but if you guys still don't know what it is, I'll give you one hint. Red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum. Is it a tad bit predictable that Dr. Sleep was gonna be my number 1 favorite horror film of the year? Probably so, but god damn it, I loved Dr. Sleep. First of all, I just want to say to you, Mike Flanagan, you are a god of the horror genre. Now, no offense to other horror directors out there like James Wan, Jordan Peele, Fede Alvarez, Robert Eggers, or Ari Aster, but if you were to ask me which director out there has the best grasp on what horror actually is, I would easily say Mike Flanagan. Because not only does Mike Flanagan has a strong grasp on character and story, but most importantly, on what is actually scary. And to add on top of that, Mike Flanagan had a very small tightrope to walk across, not only appeasing the Kubrick fans, but also appeasing the Stephen King fans. And to add even more on top of that, Mike Flanagan still had to make it his own thing without copying Kubrick or King, and man, did he do that in spades. Is Dr. Sleep better than The Shining? No, of course it's not. But as a sequel, Dr. Sleep succeeds in pretty much every single realm possible. Dr. Sleep does such a great job of not only exploring Danny Torrance's struggles with alcohol, to which, by the way, a phenomenal performance from Ewan McGregor, but also him meeting a new friend, Abra, while also giving us a great point of view from the villain side of the True Knot gang with Rose That, which, by the way, also, Rebecca Ferguson kills in this movie. Dr. Sleep, in my opinion, gave us the best scares of the year, including one particular scene that involves Jacob Tremblay, to which, god, that scene was fucking scary. And ultimately, it all culminates with one of the best final acts I have seen all year. Mike Flanagan, thank you for not only giving us a phenomenal sequel to one of the greatest horror films of all time, but thank you, sir, for giving me my favorite horror film of 2019. Congratulations, Mike Flanagan. I cannot wait to see what you do next. Alrighty, guys, and that is going to do it for my top 10 favorite horror films of 2019. Please comment down, let me know below what were your favorite horror films of the year, and also give me a couple honorable mentions while you're at it. Let me know below. If you guys want to follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. I'm also on Snapchat and Stardust. So if y'all want to follow me on all those social media platforms, all the links, the usernames are in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed my top 10 favorite horror films of 2019. If so, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe to see more videos just like this one. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell to see whenever a new video of mine goes live. If you guys want to see any of my previous 2 videos, please click either right there or there. And of course, until my next video or review, I'll see you all next time.